So in this video I'm going to talk a bit about F1 2013. I already did a video where I said about the things that I hoped they'd put in the game, like a wish list. I'll put a link to that video in the description. But yeah, since I made that video, I made that video ages ago, but there's been announcements from Codemasters about what to expect from F1 2013, and I just thought I'd share some of my thoughts about what these changes could mean for the game and everything. I'm talking separately from recording any footage. I'll just put some clips together from F1 2012 and just put it in, but it's not vitally important. So, F1 2013, the big announcement that Codemasters have made is that there's this classic mode which they've added. There's going to be two versions of the game which they release. There's going to be the standard edition and there'll be a classic edition. In the standard edition you get the F1 2013 game obviously, and you get classic 1980s content, which includes drivers from the 80s, cars from the 80s, and Brands Hatch circuit and the old Jerez circuit. So basically things that were in F1 in the 80s will be in that game. In the classic edition you get all of that, and you also get some 90s content. You get a few more drivers and cars, and you also get a couple more circuits. You get Imola. I don't know if that's the Imola of 1994 and before that, when the circuit was a lot faster but also more dangerous, or post 94 after Senna and Ratzenberger died, when they changed the circuit. And you also get Estoril is another circuit. So you get that on top of F1 2013 and all the 1980s stuff. It's introduced by Murray Walker, which sounds awesome because he's just amazing. I still remember him commentating on F1 99, which I had on PlayStation 1, which was a great game, and he's just, in my opinion, the best sports commentator ever. He's just so enthusiastic and a great person to have commentating on an F1 game. From the looks of things, I mean, from what I've read, it looks like it's going to be quite similar to you had the Champions mode in F1 2012, where you had to complete scenarios against the 5 world champions that were on the grid. Was it 5 or 6? I think it was 5 that were on the grid in 2012. From what I've read, it looks like it might be similar to that. I'm not entirely sure yet, obviously. We'll find out more as Codemasters release the information. So yeah, I mean, it sounds great. It does sound really good, the classics thing, and it's a good idea, because I think everyone loves to compare generations and compare the old cars to the new cars. You know, maybe they had more power with turbo engines and whatnot and had a more raw sound to them, but obviously they didn't have the same technology, and levels of downforce were poorer, which made the cars more difficult to control, which I think will be fun to test in the game and see how they compare to the cars of today. And also including the old circuits, I think, is a great idea. In a way, it's a shame that they've only got 4. I mean, there are loads of circuits that I would love to see in an F1 game, but you know, it's a start, and maybe it's something that they can build on in the future if it goes well. The only thing I would say about this is that I just don't want to get carried away with the whole thing, because it's great news, and I'm sure everyone's looking forward to it, but it's not the be-all and end-all with this game. They still need to make sure that they don't lose sight of everything else, because when I did my video about what I was wanting in F1 2013, a lot of it was to do with the career mode and also some of the problems with online, and I just hope that they haven't swept those problems under the carpet by launching this big mode, this classic mode, and so everyone gets excited about that and forgets about the problems from the game that were there before and might still be there now, for all we know. I just think if you were to buy the game and all you're thinking is, oh, this classic mode is going to be really good, once you're done with the classic mode, you've still got the F1 2013 game, and it would be, I'd certainly be disappointed the game hasn't really changed much again, because I've said before that I didn't feel like F1 2012 was much of an advancement on 2011 in terms of gameplay. So hopefully they've addressed that in F1 2013, but I don't know. And hopefully they've sorted out the penalty system, because another feature of F1 2013 is that you can do online multiplayer with the old cars, which is another brilliant idea. But if they are harder to control than the modern cars. And also, if you can race on the tracks like Estoril or Jerez, which are especially narrow, then the penalty system is going to be really important to make sure that the racing is as fair as possible and that you don't just get bunted off all the time. I mean, it happens often enough in F1 2012 when the tracks they're modern tracks, so they're wider generally with more runoff and everything, but we're talking about older tracks now and older cars, and I hope that they have addressed the penalty problem, because it has been a big problem in 2012, just getting penalties for no reason. If that still goes on with the classic circuits and everything, then it could be a big problem, and it could, be really frustrating for a lot of people. So I'd say I'm feeling cautiously optimistic about F1 2013 at the moment, because this, as I say again, it's great news that they've put this in. It sounds like it's a great idea and something they could build on, hopefully, in the future. I mean, I'd love to see, like, being able to play out a season, like a classic season, maybe 88, so you'd have the 88 or 89 to have the rivalry between Senna and Prost. Well, 88, 89 or 90. Or, late 90s, Hakkinen and Schumacher, maybe 05 or 06, Alonso and Schumacher. Or, maybe one from the 70s or the early 80s, there were some good seasons then. Obviously, this would be a big job because you'd have to get all of the old tracks and all of the old cars in, which I can imagine would be a bit of a nightmare. But, I don't know. I don't know how hard it is. I mean, it says that they've got some classic drivers in this one. I don't know who those drivers are. I think some of the cars, I think there's the Williams from the early 90s. There's a Lotus from the 80s, the gold one, which I think was 87 when Senna was driving that one. And there's a Williams as well from the early 80s I've seen in footage. I'm not sure what the 90s cars are. If anyone knows what the 90s cars are, please do share. But obviously, we'll find out in time. But yeah, F1 2013, I think it's due to be released on October the 4th. That's the set release date. So a couple of months or so. I'm eager to get more information from Codemasters about what is going to be on offer in this game. And yeah, so like I said, cautiously optimistic going forward. But anyway, that's it for this video. I'd love to know what everyone else thinks about what Codemasters have announced and how they feel about it. So please share your comments. And if you know anything else about this game that I haven't said, then feel free to say that as well. But that's it for now. I'll see you soon, guys.